So you've conjured up an awesome customer experience strategy. How do I know that? Well, my audience is pretty awesome. You might even have a couple of really awesome slide decks living on the SharePoint server somewhere, and then you've printed out really slick posters you put up all over the office. But I know, you know, and I know, deep down, nothing is really going to change in your customer experience. Hey, my name is Werner Puchert, and I believe that most world's problems are just interesting design challenges in disguise. Now, this is the second part of a two-part series around the CX Fundamentals, introducing the CX Fundamentals Toolkit. And in the last video, we spoke about CX enablers, where we really focus on how do I get from distractions in my CX strategy to really focusing on the fundamentals for my specific business. Now, you have to fill the gap between knowing and doing. And this is where the CX challenge card deck comes in. If you follow a human-centered design process, the strategy doesn't work in isolation. You want to bring people from different parts of the organization together, and you need to kind of click them into the mindset of thinking about customer experience and the strategic elements around that, and also get them to get very practical. That is usually for me the most challenging part. What are some of the foundational things that we can lay down from a challenge perspective that can get you there faster? And this is really where the CX Fundamentals card deck comes in. So you can do all this work on your own, but this is really meant to give you a little bit of a leg up and get you going faster when it comes to exploring, framing, and reframing the challenges that you want to solve within your customer experience strategy. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this chunky beast. So if I crack open this card deck, you will see that there's about a ton of cards falling out of here. You have the usual suspects. Of course, you have a little challenge card deck booklet that explains a lot of the topics that I'll be going through here and backs up some of the content that we'll be discussing. Then, of course, you have a few empty cards here, because this is really the challenges that the card deck addresses is really generic for most businesses, but potentially you might come up with a few challenges that you want to specifically add to the card deck, and this is where these empty cards might come in useful. Then you have some instruction cards, anatomy cards, and then also a specific card that focuses on how to actually use the card deck in a specific workshop. Now, there's multiple ways that you can use it, and you'll see it shortly, but there is one way that you can run a workshop that's more focused on the human-centered design approach to this. Woo, there's 100 how might we challenges here spread across the whole generic customer life cycle. So these are potential challenges or problems that your organization might be facing. Not all of them, of course, might be relevant to you. For some it might be, but these are just generic challenges. Remember, these are aimed to serve as a bridge into your specific challenges that you are facing. Now, the first way that you might want to use this is that it's linked to the CX enablement card deck. So if you start developing certain strategies and you have pillars in place, which this card deck helps you do, you might want to think about what does it practically mean across the customer life cycle. Now, at the back of this card deck, and this is all in the previous video, you have a couple of numbers, and voila, you can go and look for these numbers in the card deck, and these cards will give you certain challenges that you could consider, and you can see, does it resonate with me or doesn't it? Doesn't fit my organization? Gives you a bit of a practical feel to the strategic pillars. Let's just have a closer look around what these how might we statements look like. So, how might we make communication delays and requests for additional information smoother and less frustrating for customers? How might we make additional fees such as early termination completely transparent while enabling customers to anticipate, manage, and avoid unexpected costs? So let's be honest, this can get very overwhelming very fast. So this is where the concept of CX outcomes come into play. So what does that mean? A couple of years ago, an executive said to me, Werner, how do I build more trust with my customers? That gave us the idea that certain activities will answer to certain or specific CX outcomes. And this is where in this card deck, you have these specific little color codes here. So for example, and there's a little card here that unpacks it, and I'll throw that on the screen in a second. The turquoise here, for example, focuses on trust and reliability. Orange over here focus on ease of use. And there's also subcategories. For example, ease of use can be around consistency, technology made simple. But if you want to focus on ease of use, or let's say trust, or both, you can isolate these cards and then start focusing on these challenges, because theoretically, if you solve and define challenges around this category, you will then start focusing on a specific outcome that you want to achieve for your customer. So this is really how the color coding and the challenge statements come into play. But I know that you want more. And the more really lives at the back of this card deck. So let's look at the other side of this card deck. Now remember, this how might we statement really focused on using what you know about customers to help customers. So you can skip the complete how might we statement and just look at the term here and says, this challenge is focusing on tiered and tailored support. You still have your categorization and enablement statements here if you want to reference them. Then there's also a bit of a trend and prioritization that comes in. This is a high priority element based on what's happening in the market at the moment. So data-driven personalization is really huge on the radars of customer experience professionals. So that's what this little element unpacks for you in more detail. Then something that I was really personally excited about bringing in is CX symptoms. So you have the statement here, the challenge. But how do you know if that challenge is really relevant for your business? It sounds really cool on the card, but is it really something that my business needs to focus on? And this is where the CX symptoms come in. So for example, in tiered and tailored support, if you're seeing a decline in retention rates, that might be an issue that you need to solve. You might see high churn rates among targeted customers. You can see negative NPS coming through when following retention and reviews. And then also you might see some stagnant or declining customer lifetime value coming into play, right? So this is a way that you can define and discuss if this statement, this challenge is really relevant for your business. And now finally, it's really hard to talk about customer experience and customer experience strategy without thinking about customer journeys. Now, this is a generic card deck with generic challenges. And most companies have very bespoke ways that they approach and map out their customer journeys for their specific organization, their specific challenges. So for this card deck, we turn to a very generic customer life cycle of 5 steps. Awareness and consideration, acquisition and conversion, onboarding and activation, usage, engagement and support, then finally growth, retention and churn management. And you'll see that this specific challenge is contextually relevant to growth, retention and churn management. So in summary, you can group the cards by outcome, filter by journey stage or explore freely. Lay them out and just have conversations with your team and think about what's really relevant to you and your strategy. Really, this is about getting everybody on the same page, have the same conversation around customer experience, but then also getting practically very fast with the right intentions in place. Now, if you're interested in getting a card deck, you can go check this out at the URL below, join the mailing list, we'll keep you updated. But maybe you're not really keen to invest in a card deck or crazy tools yet. We have also made all the knowledge and the strategy and approach available online in the CX Priority Explorer. Totally free tool using all the knowledge in the card decks that you can explore today. So jump onto this URL for the CX Priority Explorer, where you will then explore the fundamentals that you want to explore within your strategy. You will prioritize them. And then if you've done that properly and you've done it with intention, it will also give you a set of practical tactics or outcomes that you can focus on, and then also a couple of tactics that you can focus on. And you can explore these cards digitally online, no strings attached, at the URL below. And with that, if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out. And as always, thanks for watching and catch you in the comments. I don't know if I've done enough.